Hey, this is a Three Things episode where I'm going to be talking about Pinocchio Story at the request of Aaron Parker. Aaron, thanks for the suggestion. Aaron had said that they wanted to hear an analysis on Pinocchio Story off 808s. I feel like it is a masterful track and one of the most underappreciated tracks in Kanye's discography just because of the screams. Yes, absolutely yes. This is a song that I don't think gets praised enough. It hurt me because I was doing a story with somebody and they were saying how much they loved 808s and I was like, yes, yes. And then they said that they hated Pinocchio Story and it was the only song they ever skipped, and while 808s was their favorite album, Pinocchio Story was the worst Kanye song. And no, it just crushed my poor Pinocchio Story loving soul. So I'm happy we haven't gotten to talk about this on the podcast yet. It's the last track we have to cover on 808s, and we're actually going to be getting to it before Yandi comes out. We're going to be finishing off our late registration analysis, graduation, 808s, and My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy over the next 4 weeks. So I'm very excited about that, and this episode is going to be a great one. But to tide us over until the full line-by-line analysis, 3 things about the song that I love. First one, or at least are most interesting to me about it. First one is the contrast in style compared to the rest of the album. We all know the reputation of 808s and Heartbreak. A lot of people say that it's an album that you don't quite understand until you've gone through something that's really, really, really brought you low. And at that point, this album is kind of a blanket in that winter that just helps you stay warm and makes you feel comfortable. Whether that's a breakup, somebody close to you passing, a loss of a job, or just a shitty situation, that this album will be there for you and kind of captures something. Some people just really love the aesthetic of it. There's a lot of reasons to love 808s. But one of the things about it is that all these sad songs like Welcome to Heartbreak and Say You Will and Paranoid and See You in My Nightmares, Coldest Winter, are made so beautiful, right? Like Heartless is fucking catchy. As emotional as it is and as devastating as so many of these songs are, they're all really catchy in a way that makes you, I don't know, it renders the pain and the hurt and the confusion and the loss in a consumable way sometimes. It almost feels in contrast to the point of getting the emotion across. Like you're taking something raw and painful and making it pretty, enjoyable. This song, though, destroys all of the grandeur, I guess, veneer that the music and soundscape has put on this pain. And you just get the unadorned, draconian hurt from the most stripped back song Kanye has put on an album. And I think that contrast is incredible because it's like, yeah, all of this was done to commercialize my pain, but you really want to see what's going on inside of me? This is it. This slow, plodding, like auto-tuned, droning live concerts, just diary entry is the result of that. And that contrast between how pretty the rest of the album is and how just stripped and raw and emotional this song is one of my favorite things in Kanye's discography. So that's thing one. Number 2, yes, how it sets up My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, Yeezus, Life of Pablo, and Yay. Like, it's kind of crazy. So you look at part of the song and it gets really into the idea of multiple things. First, that there's this division between what celebrity allows you to purchase and have and what the cost of that is. And we see that he gives up real life. He's won't be able to get any of this joy and happiness and reality back. But he can buy Gucci, he can buy Louis Vuitton, you know, all this stuff, but he sacrificed his real life. And while all that stuff is cool and he thought it was the stuff that was going to make him happy, he realizes that no, he's lost all of that. And so he keeps asking, like, you know, what can I do to bring back a piece of real life? Real life, what does it feel like? I turn on the TV and see me and see nothing. What does it feel like to live a real life, to be real, not some facade on TV that no one can really feel? And this idea of the being someone that's a facade versus the real life and who I really am and how do I capture that again is the dynamic that we see go on My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, Yeezus, Life of Pablo, into Ye. With My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, reality vanishes from dark fantasy, gorgeous power, and we enter into this dark, twisted fantasy. And that's what happens from All of the Lights through Who Will Survive in America. After Kanye falls into that fantasy, we get Yeezus, which is a facade of Kanye, and that exterior facade that he shows to the world in On Sight, Black Skinhead, I Am a God, New Slaves, gets torn apart on Hold My Liquor, and we see what's really going on under the surface. This pain, this desire for love and to be loved is what emerges on Yeezus as the main thing that the Yeezus character is missing. Same thing happens on Life of Pablo. In Life of Pablo, the character, Pablo, has this potential for love. He has a wife, but this pull of celebrity, all the shit that he's been caught up in for years and years, is pulling him away from his wife. And he has to make this choice between that celebrity lifestyle, that false lifestyle, and the one that actually has meaning, which is why the album cover is which one, which one, which one, which one. And then Ye is him rejecting that persona, what celebrity is, and really getting back to just being himself. It's one thing to have chosen his wife and family on Life of Pablo, but then on Ye, we see him reject the whole thing and get back to being who he truly was, which is why the first 3 songs are more in that dark mindsets, that trapped mindsets, before breaking out and returning to being a kid and having this reawakening that we see also occur on Kids See Ghost. So I'm not making the case that Kanye purposefully wrote this narrative across multiple albums, but I think it's clear that he had this kind of content on his mind, that he was in a dark place wondering if celebrity had really stolen from him every potential out of real life that he could have. And it makes sense then that he would just say, fuck it, and go with it on My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. But with Kim coming into the picture between Dark Twisted Fantasy and Yeezus, we see him start to turn his attention back to having hope. And then with Life of Pablo, exploring those feelings of being married. So I think it's more that the narrative that I described just kind of comes through from the journey of Kanye's life and him dealing with very real emotions and putting those on the album, less so than Kanye being like, all right, this is the story I'm going to craft over these next 4 albums. Not that. But you can just kind of track the journey he went on as a person. And this whole era, you can tie it back to right here and him really getting into that dichotomy of emotion. Thing number 3. Oh, and real fast, I don't know if people necessarily put 2 and 2 together with Only One, but Only One being from the view of his mom talking to Kanye about Kim and North and being this song that she's speaking to him from heaven ties back to here. And there's no Geppetto to guide me, no one right beside me. The only one was behind me. I can't find her no more. I can't call her no more. I can't. The only one that come out on the tour and stays. So here he set up the idea of her being the only one. And so having that song titled Only One, you get the connection right there. So Pinocchio Story, I think, gets at the truth of what Kanye was feeling more so than maybe any other song that he's put out, and shows where he was going to go for the next decade worth of music, which is really insane. And that you can track that journey from him being in this place to getting through it and actually finding his way, which now, point 3. I really like the contrast at the beginning and the end and the implication of it. So it starts out with, wise man say, you'll never figure out real love. Never figure out real love, you'll never figure out real love, which almost seems like a death sentence, right? Like, you're never going to find a real love that can make you happy, that will give your life meaning. It feels like you're always going to have a false love, like you're doomed, that there's no hope. But at the very end of the track, it says perspective, and wise men say, one day you'll find your way. You'll find your way, you'll find your way, wise men say. I think probably there might be a negative reading into that, but to me, it almost seems like there's this last bit of hope, that as he's gone through all this negativity, it's like realizing that the wise man says, you'll find your way, that there is something good that can come from this. So as tragic as this album is and what it builds up to, and even with it starting to say, like, you know, you'll never find real love, it still ends with this concept of you'll find your way. And I think that there's a lot of conversation when you put into contrast what the wise man says at the beginning and what he says at the end. You never figure out real love, but you'll find your way. You know, does that mean that real love is necessary to finding your way? Or does it just mean that you don't have to actually figure out what real love is? It's not something that you need to understand or can understand, but you'll find your way, and real love can be part of that, right? It's not something that you'll never have. You just don't need to understand it to make it work. It's beyond you. I kind of think there's the whole thing, I think it's the koan, where wise men on mountaintops would give the journeyer who comes to them seeking wisdom this koan, where it was kind of a shorter story or riddle that people would have to think about and come to an answer on. I think one of the most famous is, what is the sound of one hand clapping? Something like that. So you really have to ponder it and think about it. And I almost feel like that wise man, you'll never figure out real love, is that kind of deeper thought. It has that superficial interpretation, but it actually has more of a wisdom about it the more you think about it and contemplate it and really look at the specifics of the word choice. And just having that hope at the end of you'll find your way, which kind of recontextualizes that opening and then gives hope in an album that otherwise has no hope, I think is kind of a very beautiful ending. And that even in this worst spot, there's still a wish for something more, something better, and hope for it. Yeah, so that's my 3 things for this. If you have another song you want me to do, leave a comment and I will get to it soon. Or if you have a non-Kanye topic you want me to do 3 things on, I think that might be an interesting way to kind of talk about some other topics. If anybody's interested in that, I don't know if anybody is. But if you want me to do a 3 things on other albums, movies, anything like that, make the recommendation and I'll see if it's something that people might be into. Otherwise, we'll just stick to Kanye songs. If you're liking the content, would really appreciate the subscription. Now that we will hopefully have the channel monetized, it's in the review process. It would be nice just to keep building momentum. And if you want to listen to the podcast, it's on iTunes. We post it on the YouTube feed, Spotify, Watching the Throne, a lyrical analysis of Kanye West. Our next episode will be Violent Crimes. And then if you want to support the channel, patreon.com/Kanye podcast. And then also just subscribing to the podcast on iTunes, subscribing here, liking. We also have shirts for sale on watchingthethrone.com. And we have this Yeezus book that you can find on Amazon. That's a big 160-page book that we wrote about Yeezus. And if you like the kind of analysis I was doing just now, you'll fucking love this book because it's just that for 160 pages. Anyway, thanks for watching, and looking forward to the next one. Cheers.